much?
69 cents. I seen you was from Dallas.
What business is it of yours? Where I'm from? Friendo?
Didn't mean nothing by it.
Didn't mean nothing.
Might be something else.
I don't know. Will there?
Is something wrong? Well, I need to see about closing now.
See about closing?
Yes, sir.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Sir?
You're a bit deaf, aren't you? I said, what time do you go to bed?
Somewhere around 9:30.
I could come back then.
Well, I got to close now. Yes, I do.
You lived here all your life?
This is my wife's father's place.
You married into it.
That's the way you want to put it.
That's the way it is.
What?
Just call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair. And it's either heads or tails.
All right.
The movie is set in 1980 Texas. On a bright afternoon, a man in a black jacket is walking in handcuffs beside a young patrol officer toward a waiting cop car. The prisoner, named Anton Chigurh, is silent, his gaze sharp and expressionless. The only thing he carries looks like a tool, a small steel tank with a hose and a heavy nozzle, its use unknown by the officer. He drives the mysterious man to the small station, then calls his superior to report the arrest, his back towards Anton. The second after he hangs up, Anton whips his cuffed hands up and loops the chain around the officer's throat. He tightens as the young man struggles for air, limbs flailing around until he finally breathes his last breath. Afterwards, Anton washes his bloodied wrists at a sink and leaves the station. He drives the dead officer's patrol car onto the highway, stopping a civilian car in the middle of the desert with its police siren. Anton taps on the car and tells the driver to get out of the car. Thinking that it's a minor traffic issue, the man steps out. However, Anton raises the nozzle of his strange little tank, holds the nozzle attached to the tank on the man's forehead, and squeezes the trigger. There is no bang, no smoke, just a flat sound that punches a hole into the man's skull. Elsewhere in that same desert, a hunter follows a different trail. Llewelyn Moss, hat low against the glare, has been stalking a deer with his rifle from afar. He takes a shot, but only grazes it. The loud sound drives the flock of deers to run away. In defeat, he descends from the hill to pick up the deer's track. Instead, he spots a black dog in the distance, seemingly injured and bleeding. Curious, he follows the dog's trail using his binoculars. He sees a few trucks, seemingly abandoned. When he walks up to the scene, it surprises him. The truck's doors were flung open. There were bodies on the ground and slumped across seats, and stacks of drug packets were stashed in the trunk. It seems like a drug deal was turned into a battlefield, leaving no survivors. Well, almost no survivors. When Moss moves cautiously among the vehicles, he finds a man still barely breathing in one of the trucks, his lips cracked, voice no more than a rasp asking for water in Spanish. Moss takes the man's gun while saying in English that he doesn't have any water. He asks where the last survivor went, but the dying man can't answer. Before leaving, the man asks Moss to close the door, afraid of a wolf attack. Moss doesn't bother doing it and just leaves to find the last man. Tracks lead away from the scene toward a lone tree. There, another figure sits as if resting. Moss waits for some time before checking that the man hasn't moved, so he's probably dead. When he approaches the figure, his assumption is true. Beside him rests a black leather briefcase. Moss sets it on his knee and unlatches it. Inside, he finds many stacks of cash, each valued at $10,000. He closes the case, takes the dead man's gun as well, and walks away. Moss drives his old, beat-up truck back to the trailer park where he lives. Before entering, he stashes the machine guns he stole from the scene under his trailer. Inside, his wife Carla greets him while she watches TV. She asks where he had been the whole day and where he got the guns from, but he dismisses her questions, saying she's better off not knowing. That night, Moss can't fall asleep. He stares at his ceiling, mind latching onto the dying man he left without water in the desert. At last, he rises, fills a gallon jug from the tap, and tells Carla he has to go out for a bit. She knows better than to believe this is nothing, but she lets him leave without an explanation. Moss returns to the desert site with the jug, opens the truck, and finds the man already gone. He then notices headlights from a truck pulling up next to his own. Two men stand by Moss's pickup, knifing a tire. He runs for the river as the men start shooting at him, one round burning his shoulder. He runs towards the river when he sees that the men order their pit bull to chase him. It follows Moss, trudging through the river's currents. He climbs out of the water, shakes the water out his gun, and shoots the dog as it lunges at him. He staggers down the far side and escapes his pursuers. The next day at a gas station, Anton is about to pay for the gas and a snack. The old station owner makes small talk, but in return, Anton's responses are odd and antagonizing.
I seen you was from Dallas.
What business is it of yours? Where I'm from? Friendo?
Didn't mean nothing by it.
Didn't mean nothing.
Might be something else.
I don't know. Will there?
Is something wrong? Well, I need to see about closing here.
See about closing?
Yes, sir.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Sir?
You're a bit deaf, aren't you? I said, what time do you go to bed?
Somewhere around 9:30.
I could come back then.
Well, I got to close now. Yes, I do.
You lived here all your life?
This is my wife's father's place.
You married into it?
That's the way you want to put it.
That's the way it is.
He tosses a coin on the counter and tells the man to call it.
What?
Just call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair. And it's either heads or tails.
All right.
Anton's character implies that a mistake will cost the old man his life. Heads, he finally whispers, and thankfully, he's right. Anton slides the coin to him, saying it's his lucky quarter now, and walks out without a backward glance. That evening, somehow Moss returns to his trailer. Nursing his wounds, he tells his wife to lay low in her mother's house. He warns her not to ask questions, but assures her that he'll be all right.
Come on, pack your things. Anything you leave, you ain't gonna see again.
Back in the desert, Anton arrives, surveying the area together with the men that shot at Moss. They hand him a small receiver tuned to a transmitter hidden in the stolen cash. No signal is detected for now, which means that the money must be somewhere quite far away. However, Moss's truck gives them a lead to follow. Then, Anton raises his gun and shoots both men where they stand. Next to arrive at the scene are the Terrell County Sheriff, Ed Tom Bell, and his deputy, Wendell. They survey a burned car nearby, which Ed correctly assumes it was the one Anton stole from the civilian he killed by the road earlier. Down a side track, they find the abandoned truck, which the sheriff recognizes as belonging to Moss. At the main scene, they count bodies, red bullet scars, and conclude it began as a drug exchange gone wrong. But the presence of different weapons and fresh tracks suggests a second, colder party arrived afterward. He follows the transmitter's beeping and finds his way to the motel. He studies the office map before choosing his room. At room 138, he shoots the lock with the nozzle and steps through the broken frame. 3 men who are also hunting the stolen money occupy that middle room. The first dies before he can stand. The second fires from the bathroom and misses before Anton shoots him. The third begs behind the shower curtain, but Anton has no mercy. He then sits on the bed, removes his socks, and studies the room. The vent draws his eye. He unscrews the cover and finds scrape marks, but no case. In the next room over, Moss pulls the case from the neighboring vent and walks out into the night to hitchhike from a passing trucker. In an office somewhere, the director talks to a man named Carson Wells, who is dressed up like a proper modern cowboy. The company is the buying party of the drug deal gone wrong back in Terrell County. He hired Anton to track the money, but the man is now a loose cannon, and he wants Carson to stop him. Carson is quite familiar with Anton and how he operates, so he assures the director that he'll stop Anton and retrieve the money.
Yeah, he's a psychopathic killer, but so what? We can stop that.
Seem pretty sure of yourself.
Moss checks into Eagle Pass, another motel with a bigger storied building. He asks the clerk to call his room if anyone else checks in. In his room, he opens the briefcase and discovers the transmitter hidden inside a wad of cash. However, he also hears footsteps outside his door. Calling the reception leads to no answer, so Moss assumes the clerk is dead. He kills the lights, shoulders the shotgun, and waits. Out in the hall, Anton triggers his device. The blown cylinder punches the door inward and hits Moss in the chest. Moss fires through the splintering wood and dives out the window with the money. Anton shoots again and hits him high in the ribs. Moss sprints away towards the street where a box truck drives past. He climbs in, and a second later, the driver dies by a shot through the windshield. Bullets shower the truck as Moss stomps on the gas. He crashes hard, tumbles out, and crawls to cover behind a parked car. He watches Anton's reflection in a window and times his breathing. Moss fires, then sweeps the shotgun across the car Anton used for cover. When he checks, Anton has vanished, but he's sure that he shot the hitman. With himself being injured, Moss forces himself to the Mexican border, buys a coat from some teens, and throws the briefcase over the rail to retrieve later. On the other side of the border, he collapses in front of a mariachi band and asks them for medical help. Back in town, Anton is indeed shot in the leg. He intends to take care of it himself, so he creates a diversion outside a pharmacy by lighting up a car. While everyone in the pharmacy is distracted, he walks in and grabs the stuff he needs to treat his wounds. He returns to a motel room, takes off his bloodied pants, and hops into a bath. He cleans the wound, pulls out shrapnels from his thigh, and dresses his wounds with a mostly straight face. Back in Texas, Sheriff Ed goes to Odessa to see Carla Jean. He asks if she knows where Moss is. She doesn't, since her husband hasn't made contact with her since they went their separate ways. He believes her and says the law can do more for a man who lets it, that he'd rather bring Moss in alive than write his name in a report. She nods without hope. As he stands to go, some stray thought breaks loose. He mentions a slaughterhouse tool that kills without a bullet and leaves a tidy hole, as if naming the method might make the killing feel less unreal. She doesn't know that he's talking about Anton's weapon, but the old sheriff doesn't elaborate either. In Mexico, Moss wakes up on a hospital bed to find Carson in a chair next to him, legs crossed like a casual visitor and a flower bouquet on his lap. He says there are men looking for Moss who will not stop, that Anton is the most dangerous among them. Hand over the money, Carson says, and he will do what can be done about the cold-blooded hitman. Moss refuses, confident that he can either outrun or outgun Anton. Carson warns that it's Carla Jean that he should be worried about, not just him. But alas, Moss still stands his ground, so Carson tells him to call if he changes his mind. He then tries to find the suitcase himself by the bridge and finds the briefcase caught near a culvert. Back at his hotel, silence feels wrong the instant he shuts the door. Anton sits in the dim by the window. Knowing that he's at a major disadvantage, Carson tries to bargain with the cold man, promising he knows where the money is. Anton isn't interested. He knows he'll get the money himself eventually. The phone rings. As Carson turns his head, Anton shoots him, then answers the call. It's Moss.
Who is this?
You know who it is. You need to talk to me.
Anton gives Moss a choice to surrender the money or Carla Jean will die. Moss refuses and makes his own threat.
Decided to make you a special project of mine. You ain't gonna have to come look for me at all.
He crosses back into the United States, retrieves the case, buys clean clothes, and calls his wife. He tells Carla Jean to go to El Paso so he can give her the money. Then she'll catch a flight out of the country with her mother. Elsewhere, Anton discovers his employer planted a second tracker and shared it with the Mexicans. He answers the betrayal by killing the man who signed his checks. Now, both Anton and the Mexicans are closing on Moss. Worried for Moss, Carla Jean calls Ed and tells him about his plan to meet in El Paso, hoping the law will get there first. That afternoon, Moss passes the motel court where a young woman lounges by the pool and offers him a beer. He declines, saying he's waiting for his wife. Not long after, Sheriff Ed hurries towards the motel as civilians run from the building. The sunbathing woman floats dead in the pool. Inside a small apartment, Moss lies dead on the floor, killed by the Mexicans who reached him first. That night, police tape flutters on the motel premises. Carla Jean arrives and knows that her husband is dead just by looking at Ed's face. The next morning, Ed and the El Paso police chief talk about the new shape of violence. Men who don't seem to want anything negotiable. The chief mentions that Anton returned to the crime scene last night. The thought hooks the sheriff. He goes back to the motel where Moss died, sees the door lock punched inward, steps inside, and stands very still. If Anton is here, he does not reveal himself. The sheriff notices the vent cover lying open and a quarter on the floor, glinting. He leaves and visits his uncle, Ellis, who used to be a lawman himself. He's now an old man on a wheelchair, living alone with many cats in the middle of nowhere. Ellis heard from Ed's wife that the sheriff is planning on quitting soon. He then shares a memory of a deputy gunned down in his own home years ago while his wife watched. It wasn't better back then, he says. Bad men didn't arrive with this generation. They've always been here in the shadows. Wickedness isn't new. It just wears different clothes and gives itself different names.
What you got ain't nothing new. You can't stop what's coming.
Later, when Carla Jean returns from her mother's burial, Anton is waiting in her bedroom. She stops in the doorway and says she knows it isn't over just because Moss is gone. Anton agrees, saying he came to settle a debt brought upon by the choice Moss made during that one phone call. He flips a coin and asks her to call it, the ritual he mistakes for absolution, but Carla Jean refuses. She says the choice is his, that the coin is a story he tells himself to feel less like a monster.
Call it.
No, I ain't gonna call it. The coin don't have no say. It's just you.
We're not shown Anton's decision, but when he leaves, he glances at the soles of his boots as if checking for blood. Driving away, another car hits Anton's passenger side. He hauls himself from the wreck with a broken arm and a face clotted with blood. Two boys on bikes roll up, fascinated and alarmed. Anton gives one of them a wad of bills for his shirt, which he knots into a makeshift sling. He limps into the distance and disappears. Sometime later, now finally retired and hung his badge, Ed sits at breakfast with his wife at home. He tells her he dreamed twice in the night. In the first dream, his father handed him some money for safekeeping, and he lost it. In the second dream, they were riding in winter into a narrow mountain pass. Snow sifted down, and the horse's breath steamed. His father rode ahead with a horn that held fire, carrying a small light against the dark. The sheriff knew, even in the dream, that his father was going to make a fire and wait for him, and that in time he would ride on into the cold and find him there.